At what point did you change it from the Fabricator Series to the Fabrication Series?
You really want me to answer this?
I do, actually.
Do you know the reason?
Yeah. Well, maybe a hunch.
I wonder if this part's going to stay in.
This episode of the Fabricator Podcast is brought to you by Nuts, Bolts, and Thingamajigs. Join us for Golfer Manufacturing South on May 22nd in Charlotte, North Carolina. Reserve your spot for in-person networking opportunities and to support the future of the skilled trades. Visit nutsandboltsfoundation.org to register today.
Welcome to the Fabricator Podcast. I'm Dan Davis with the Fabricator Magazine. I'm joined by a new face to this whole shebang, Rafael Guerrero. He works with our publication called The Welder. Hello, Rafael. How are you?
Good to be here.
You excited?
Most definitely.
Oh, yes.
I heard some things about this podcast.
Little thing about Rafael. We had to take his picture, and he can't smile without closing his eyes.
Is that true?
No, I don't think so. That was happening though.
Oh, that particular
one, so
day. All
sure.
right, I thought it was a permanent health problem. He's joining us today. We're here to do the intro for our episode with Mr. Justin Merrill.
Yeah.
I got it right. Okay, that's good. He's with the Fabrication Series on YouTube. He's
formerly known as
the Fabricator Series.
Yeah.
And it was, he's been at it for quite a while. And if you hang around and watch, you'll notice a story in which he says we approached him with a piece of legal
cease and desist.
Yeah, which I didn't know about. So it's kind of fun, the moment of discovery in that conversation where I realized that, man, we're throwing our weight around like some big shot.
Yeah.
So, but it just led me to think, he's doing the Fabricator and, was told not to do it anymore. So he kind of changed up the logo with like a spray painted X over the OR of the Fabricator, and he called it the Fabrication Series.
Yeah.
It's kind of a neat approach to changing his brand, and made me think, how as an individual, what's the best way to change your brand? And then I saw a picture of Vince McMahon of WWE fame with his new mustache. And I'm thinking
he dyed his hair black too.
Yeah,
Well,
something looks different.
Yeah, that's a thing. So, it almost looks like a brand new dude.
A brand new dude.
B,
a long-time human.
But yeah, if you're involved in like what do they call it, performance art or naked men entertainment, I don't know what you want to call it, professional wrestling, but he looks kind of like the part of like an evil guy.
Yeah. Well, it's
So-
that pencil thin.
Yeah.
The way he shaved it in that pencil thin.
So you can tell with what I got going on, it's like I don't even know anything about personal grooming. So, how do you stay on top of that? And have you ever had a mustache, facial hair that?
No, I have not. I've not grown one. I'd like to be, clean and shaven.
Okay,
And
yeah.
Maybe it's something I do this year. I mean, you're still
challenge
young.
accepted. Yeah. But it has to be a Vince McMahon pencil.
Okay,
thin.
yeah.
You can
I'll
tell
try that,
Rafael didn't read his job description that well.
They're just telling me this now when you're in.
Yeah,
So.
there you go. Yeah,
You've been here a year now. You have to grow a beard.
I did not read the fine print, I guess. So.
it's kind of awkward, but ironically enough, totally legal.
Yeah, we aren't the Yankees. We don't require you to shave.
So as we're kind of talking about this before we started recording, Gareth called up kind of like some famous mustachioed individuals from film, and I have to say that he brought up the character, Matt Dillon's character from There's Something About Mary, and it looks a little bit better on him than Vince McMahon's mustache, I think. Yeah,
That's a great character.
It kind of suggests villainy, but at the same time, not total danger. I don't know.
No, just a doofus.
Yes, correct.
When he gets the veneers too and the mustache, that's the ultimate look.
We just a side note. we were watching some type of country music award thing. There seems like there's one of those like every other weekend. And my wife like calls out Winona Judd's teeth.
Oh wow!
And apparently they have a glow in the dark effect as well. So I don't know whether anyone else has noticed
I did
this.
not say this award show. No.
I was just in Nashville recently, and there you go. Those are some
That
choppers.
is some white teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Favorite mustache in Hollywood history?
Actually, somebody had, I had a conversation recently about Scorsese, and there's what's his name? Daniel Day-Lewis plays
The Butcher,
the
right?
villain in in Gangs of New York.
That's what
I
Gareth.
think that's the one I'm thinking.
I
of.
think
curl.
people are
And
on the same
surprise,
kind of
he is
wavelength.
he's not the best guy. So
Yeah, but like I mean, that is an intimidation factor.
Yeah. You
curly,
know who?
curly mustache, top hat, and a hatchet.
Yeah.
That'll
or,
make you quake in your boots.
or you could have like a 90-mile-per-hour fastball like Raleigh Fingers and have that
Oh,
mustache.
True.
My dad grew a mustache like that once.
Really?
Yeah. Because of Raleigh Fingers.
Huh. Did he?
He could
How
not throw a
curly
90
did he go? Did he go like multiple?
I think it was
curls
just
in?
one around.
Just one around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't go nuts.
No. So that's like a big thing of mine. Like most people, you had Ben Stiller's character from Dodgeball up there.
Yeah.
And-
White Goodman.
Correct. And most people will call that the Fu Manchu, which is actually incorrect.
Yeah.
That's the upside down handlebar. Or the horseshoe.
Do you remember
the horseshoe?
Oh,
The Fu
yeah.
Manchu is actually kind of like grows away from the face.
Yes.
Yes.
This is just a handlebar. I believe, right?
Oh, is that all right? There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah. So once again, does facial hair like a mustache necessarily mean untrustworthiness?
There was a study, I don't know how many years ago, that said men
is
with
this,
like,
is this part of your weekend scientific journal reading?
yeah, right. This man on the
doing a
street
study right now.
without the
on that.
camera, just go around and ask people weird questions about their facial hair.
And what did you discover?
I didn't discover this. Somebody else discovered it, that scruff, like men with scruff, are considered more untrustworthy.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Don't you think like men are just more untrustworthy in general?
Yeah, anyone with facial hair,
Yeah, there you go.
which turns out to be mostly men. Which is why I trust Rafael.
That and
There you
old Italian grandmothers.
Yes, hey, as someone who's has a lot of old Italian aunts.
Okay, let's
yeah.
just check the list. Have we marked off all the people we've been wanted to insult so far?
Yeah, right.
All right then. On that note,
Well, yeah,
let's just make the shift to the actual episode,
sure.
and so we don't get any more trouble.
Okay.
I
That
told this
sounds-
would be fun, Raphael.
This episode of the Fabricator Podcast is brought to you by the 15th Annual FMA and CNA Safety Conference. Join us May 9th and 10th in Elgin, Illinois for safety discussions and expert presentations around updated industry OSHA standards. Also enjoy a manufacturing facility tour, cocktail reception, and safety awards dinner. Register online today at fmamfg.org/events.
Hello, welcome to the Fabricator Podcast Series. Recording live from the FMA annual meeting in Las Vegas. I'm Dan Davis with Fabricator Magazine, joined by Jim Gorzik.
I'm Jim Gorzik, yeah.
Yes, there's an echo in here. He's also at the Fabricator and FMA, and today's guest is Justin Merrill. I got the name right.
You got it right.
There you
There was all soft. See, there was some confusion beforehand.
Yes.
I gave you every single way to screw it up, but you got it right. You nailed
I
it.
described a previous guest as a longtime person, so I have nowhere to go but up.
What kind of experience do you need to be a
Yeah,
long-time
exactly.
person?
I was a broadcast journalism major for a semester. So yes,
The school asked him
we're
to
learning.
change.
We're learning with every passing minute.
Imagine putting that on a resume.
Yeah,
I have experience in being long-time person.
long
The
time
human
person.
fund.
Yes. So Justin there's a little bit of a connection here. Before we even knew there was an internet, he was the
He
Fabricator
started it.
Series on YouTube. And we've watched from afar, and he's had some long-term success, at least related to the age of the internet. He's been doing it for a little bit, and we hope to learn a little bit about him and how he got started and what he's up to. And Justin, how long have you been doing the Fabricator series?
It started in 2015, so I'm coming up in, what was this, 8 years? I'll be crossing the 8-year mark.
Wow. It's been a little bit of a adjustment for you. Not only like you were a fabricator before you started, and how did that transition get started?
Yeah, I was, I've been in fabrication 20 some odd years now.
Yeah.
So I got hurt in the Navy, like classic story or whatever the case is. They retired me officially. Couldn't keep on going about the regular career that I was doing forever.
Yeah.
And, I'm sitting there in my early 30s in my garage with nothing to do.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, screw it. I'll just jump onto YouTube. That seems to be jumping right now. So I was like, well, whether it's going to be good or it's going to be totally miserable or it's going to suck and everybody's going to boo me off the internet, like whatever. I'll just put some videos together and see if I can help some people out. Because at that time, there was like this giant miscommunication between this is really how it works, and then, this is how the internet says it works, and it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, I'll just jump on there and throw some videos out there, have some fun, why not?
Yeah. So we have a colleague, Josh Welton, who Brown Dog Welding on his social media channels, and he described his early days of putting welds out there, and like, people are like, oh, I can do better than that. It's just like Wild West of like poor commentary.
Yeah,
did you experience it? So that really hadn't changed.
No, it's if any comment, if you read your comments, right, you can have some super thick skin. But if you ever read your comments, if it starts out with as a so and so with X amount of years of experience, automatically you're getting thrown. Like you're getting just beat down. Somebody's gonna be like, you should have done this. I would have done it that way. But every great once in a while, you get the whole resume first sentence.
That's like the fabricators. Well, actually,
So every great once in a while, there's a compliment in one of those. But I'd say at least 9.5 out of 10 of them are just gonna be like, this is how it's done. It's been done this way forever, and all this other shit. I mean, they're just gonna tear you down in them. But that's how you can tell. But I mean, to contrast that, like what it is now versus what it was, several years ago, and the stuff like that. I mean, it's still there.
Yeah.
I want to say it's gotten a little bit worse. I would almost like to go back to the way social media was,
right,
at the beginning like that, or at least when I got on and stuff like that, or even when Josh and everybody else was there. So,
what were those early episodes like?
When of TFS?
Yeah.
Super boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very basic, like one camera.
I was like, oh yeah, I had a GoPro, a little tiny thing. It was like a GoPro Hero 3, and it only shot it could shoot in 1080.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any video editing equipment or anything, so all I had was the free YouTube editor, which was just trash. Yeah. All you could do is like you got to upload all your videos up to YouTube at once, and then pick out which ones you want if you even remember it.
Yeah.
Which one was which or which cut and which take, and then all you could really do is just like shorten it and just kind of stick them together. And they give you some silly little transitions that were not even that good. Like here's the star, there's a screen wipe, and it's
it looks like those 1970s like after school specials.
Yeah,
NBC.
Exactly. It was that's all I really had. So then I didn't take it all that seriously. So they were all in 720. I had no microphone. It's just whatever was on the GoPro. So some audio is like, it's like, and the other time it's like, he can't even hear me. It's all over the place. And then I decided, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put some production value in here. So I threw in music, and interludes and stuff like that. I had no control over the volume.
Right.
And then I didn't really have, I mean, originally I wanted to be, serious. I wanted to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And this is like the worst part about being on there now, because like this is me here now, but on the camera back then I was just like, welcome to the Fabricator Series. I'm going to teach you how to do something. We're going to notch tubes without a tube notcher, and this is how you're going to do it. You're going to cut it this way, and then of course we're going to put it over that way, and then if you do this, and then 1/3 equal tube diameter equals throat depth, and of course we put it back together this way, and then maybe I would cut.
Yeah. and then you take
put
a
it
deep
in another angle.
then pass out.
Mom, get out of here.
Actually, even in this video here, it's like I'm just talking and talking and talking and talking and talking, and I'm like, rather than show somebody what I was going to do, I talk about it and then show them, and it was like. I eventually realized, I got into my groove, and we eventually got there to what it is now.
How long did it take you before you found like a sweet spot of like actual doing and editing? getting to where you really like
years.
what you're doing? Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I mean, I help a lot of people out. At least, locally, we have like YouTube groups and stuff like that of people who
okay.
want to, get better and maybe try to get on it or whatever, which is almost impossible today.
I was about to say, yeah, it's super competitive.
But I tell them because they're all like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna buy the best microphone, the best cameras, the best everything, and all that stuff." And I'm like, "Whoa, hold on a minute. Just pick up your phone and start talking to it,
Right.
right? And just get used to that because you're eventually going to be or have a character on YouTube that you might want to consider. That's what everybody knows you and follows you as or whatever. And you're eventually going to get your style, and you're eventually going to come around to saying, okay, this is how I want to present. This is how I want to look. This is what I want to be. And of course, your comfort level is going to change, and all the rest of the stuff, editing styles, all that. They all change as you continue to grow on it. So
Right. What were some of those early episodes about? When you decided to start doing it, there must have been a reason. Did you feel like you had to dispel certain myths, or
yeah, if you
what were trying
rewind back to like 2012-ish or so, that's when YouTube was like, that's when people were discovering that they could figure out how to like fix their washing machine
Right.
by watching this video or whatever, right? So there was always people on there trying to do like, cars and stuff. People were starting to get on there and whatever. I mean, any topic that you could find, it was like that was, groundbreaking, Wild West. Here we go. If you're the first one out there, and I recall one time I was sitting in a Jack in the Box. And me and my buddy were there, I think, and these guys wanted to like swap their Supra, just do an engine swap over the weekend. So they watched like a 5-minute video, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's easy. Yeah, we should be able to knock this out in like 2 hours after lunch, no problem. Be screaming down the drag strip."
Wow.
And stuff like that was it was really starting to get on my nerves because I was still producing products. I still had my company running and everything else like that, or my original brand. And for somebody to not buy because they're like, "Oh, well, I saw on YouTube how to do that."
Yeah.
I was like, I just lost a sale. I'm losing money. So I was like, well, we'll just get on the other end of this one and just start showing people how this is really done. So in the beginning, it was, there were certain, your basic topics of fabrication and stuff like that. My breakout video, it just took like 8 months after I got on there, which, went over 1 million views, went viral, whatever, was how to notch tubes without a tube notcher.
Okay.
And it was just simple mathematical formula, how to just put two tubes together with no special tools or anything, just, a chop saw, grinder, whatever,
Right.
and a little bit of math. And that was my first breakout video. And then after that, it was mostly just crowd driven
No
topics
kidding.
that people wanted to see, or sometimes I'd have a job that I'd bring in and, just do that.
Yeah. What was that other company you were? You
My original brand was called Merrill Performance.
okay.
So
Oh, wow.
I built car parts,
Okay.
headers, exhaust systems, intakes, add-ons, accessories.
Right.
We manufactured them. That was actually while I was in the Navy.
Okay.
I carried that brand from when after the economy tanked.
Yeah.
I carried that brand over into the Navy, and when I wasn't on duty or on watch or whatever, I was at the shop building stuff. And
No kidding.
yeah, we had a bunch of people there to.
Wow. You
help
still
put
involved
all
with
together.
it at all?
Oh, I retired the brand.
Okay. All right.
It was getting a little confusing once I came out with TFS and everybody knew me from MP. It was just like everybody was so confused, and even on my shops here, it was like you'd see both names next to each other, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Well, is this from this?" And I'd invoice somebody from one, and then they're like, "Well, this is supposed to be for TFS, but why is this other name? Who are you?"
Yeah.
so it's like trying to get my money was getting a little difficult. So I was like, well, I guess I don't really build that much anymore. I don't really do that much anymore. So I was like, well, we're on a high with that brand. We'll just kill it off there. And
Yeah. So you've been able to maintain the same shop and kind of transfer over to a new brand. That's kind of cool. Yeah. When did Merrill Performance kind of go away?
I guess you could say it officially retired in like 2016, maybe.
Okay. Wow.
At least 2017-ish, somewhere in that range. So some of my earlier videos, they have my little brand tag, the little MP tag that I still used to put on things. And,
Okay.
it was, if you look for it, you could probably find it, but
Yeah.
it's basically gone now.
Yeah. So a lot of the topics you address, crowd driven? You'd mentioned that.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So a lot of people in the beginning, they said, okay, well, you have this kind of natural knack for teaching something, and have people can explain it. You're kind of straightforward to the point, and just go into what you're supposed to be doing, talking about, whatever the case is. And they're like, I find it very easy. Do you think you could do an episode about this or something else? Whatever it was that was they come up with. And I'm like, sure. if I know enough about it, I'll do it.
Right.
You know?
You have to do some investigation sometimes, and
Every
get
great
up to
once in a
speed.
while. What I like to do, just basically like to research it. Like research these days is like, oh, I'm just going to copy that guy's content and video and
Right.
stuff, and I'm going to make it my own. That's new days research.
Yeah.
What I want to know is what's already out there.
Yeah.
So that way I'm not like beating
Correct.
a dead horse on it. Or if I see somebody else had a really good video or popular video on that topic, I can say, well, here's where they addressed, and here's something they could have missed, or here's what they kind of brushed over. So I'll watch a bunch of content, on that subject, and then I'll write my script on it and say, okay, here's where I really want to focus in on. And of course, read the comments in another video. That'll tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
everybody's like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I'm like, well, I could talk about that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's I don't venture out of things that I don't know enough about. Like, you don't see me doing pipe welding.
Right.
Like, I don't know shit about pipe welding.
Yeah.
Dude. I mean, I was taught once, and it was I'm like, oh man, whole new respect for the O-beam. But I can't sit here and do this all day long. This is not me, so I don't teach it.
Yeah.
But other topics that I know about and stuff like that.
So you've done some tube stuff though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I built chassis, roll cages, stuff like that. If you got a lot of time to burn,
Yeah.
I have I think my roll cage video was a really popular one. It was a time attack roll cage one, and that's like 3.5 hours long between two videos, cut between two videos. It's ridiculously detailed, but back then I had plenty of time
Right.
to do all that. So yeah, it's that was a big one. I did a whole build series of how to cut the front end of a car off and build a full tube chassis. So there's a lot of bending, there's a lot of welding, notching, figuring things out. I leave out the engineering formulas and stuff like that to do this because you got to know a lot about it, how a car works, and a lot of different things in order to actually calculate where you need it, your loads, your supports, and everything else like that. So I leave all that stuff out of there because it's a little more complicated than just put this number into that number and you get this. And it's for years I'd get emails. They're like, well, how'd you figure out what to do this, that, and the other? I'm like, you got to go to school.
Yeah. There's a certain point,
Yeah,
right?
you don't just
They're like,
start
well,
off.
can you just tell me what you use? Because I'll just copy you. And I'm like, no. No, I can't.
Knowledge in your hands is too dangerous.
Are there themes that you see, like when if you're researching for something you want to do in the future, are there themes that you see that people want you to address other than just like the how to?
Yeah, in a way, I've seen some things. It's I can't think of one off the top of my head, like on the fly, but a lot of this stuff kind of rabbit holes because I geek out on this stuff so bad.
Yeah.
Like especially like metal and metallurgy and there's like episodes I've written because I script everything. I write a full episode and then dig my script out of that. And that keeps me like really on track of like what I really want to talk about or focus on. I used to be a writer for some years, so some of my old writings and stuff, they'd run off into tangents, but I'd somehow bring it right back. Doesn't work on video.
Right.
I gotta write it all out first, and then I'll eventually extract my script. But like things like why yellow brass? Like why does it blow up when you weld it? Why does it basically explode? Why is it so bad to inhale and breathe in and stuff like that? So it's like to break down the whole chemical construct, if you will, of brass and zinc and why it does, the melting temperatures, the reactions, how all that's. I literally geek out on that stuff. I could read friggin' charts and stuff like that, or compositions and stuff. I could read those all day long, and I'm just like the happiest dude. I'm just like, yeah.
Do you take
You learn
classes
it,
for that, or is it all self-taught?
Most of that's just self-taught, like the metal side of things. Yeah, it's all just.
You get comments from maybe people in trade schools saying they use these videos in classes and stuff?
Oh yeah,
It's pretty cooler, right?
Yeah, a lot of fan mail, a lot of thanks. When I go to trade shows, conventions, and stuff like that, I meet a lot of instructors, teachers.
Yeah.
They're like, dude, thank you for all these videos or this one or whatever it was. The way I explained it or the way I demonstrated it really helped their students out. So like they were struggling on one thing or whatever the case is, and then bam, they just
That's
got
kinda
it
cool.
right afterwards, which that's super humbling for me.
Yeah,
I'm just like.
yeah.
Like, man, I did this for fun. But I'm so glad that it helped you guys out. No thanks required, man. I'm glad it worked.
Do you have a feel for, in terms of where your audience comes from?
They're
Like
all
breakdown?
over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's most of them are hobbyists that are sitting in their garages and stuff like that, want to learn some stuff, want to build, want to do. Some of them are just straight fans. There's I get people. That's kind of like the dream for a YouTuber is to have somebody that You know, it has nothing to do with the field or the topic in which you're talking about, but they just want to watch you and your content because they enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
You know, and I even have some people that are like, "Oh, your voice is, you know, it helps me sleep at night," and I'm like,
Wow.
"Thank you."
Maybe those earlier videos.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that was the softer Justin at that point. So we're
Yeah, I
gonna
think it's
notch
actually after I
something.
built my studio and I started getting some really good equipment and heavily investing into it.
Yeah.
That's where like my as we say, my YouTube voice
Right.
come in there. And I guess for a lot of people that was the big thing. You know, it was instead of me being just all monotone and stuff like that,
Right,
it's just
right.
it's a little more.
How else do you say you kind of write out your scripts? And I think I read that online as you know, kind of learning about you in the series. How has your preparation for these videos changed over the years? I mean, you put a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, and I don't have half the time that I used to. Yeah. So now it's normally it just comes up if I've got an idea to do something. I don't put as much effort into the channel as much as I used to, just because I don't have the time. I've got too many other things to run. I got 3 different companies right now that I manage, and lots of employees and everything I never thought I was supposed to. But now it's just like if I have an idea for something, I'm just like, okay, well, let me just kind of ride it out and, you know, do some stuff, talk about, you know, little bullet points here, or if I'm one topic out of that video that I can turn into something else, I'll start writing on just that topic and kind of see where it takes me.
Right.
And if I enjoy reading it, and the strange thing is I read it like I would present it.
Yeah.
And I even write it how I present it, right? So like if I'm saying, you know, this is a something for this, that, and the other, or whatever, right? The way that I actually say that, or how I pause when I'm actually recording or presenting or whatever the case is, I write it like that. So if you look at one of my scripts or whatever, it is so grammatically effed. Like it's so messed up, but that's how I actually read it while I'm doing it. So while I'm writing all that out, I'm kind of reading it in my head, and I'm like, if I'm following this, if I'm kind of tracking with this and I like how this is going and I even like how I sound presenting it, then I'll just see how much more I can go into it. And then I'll write the whole thing out and I'm like, okay, this is probably going to be like a 30-minute video. Nobody wants to watch that anymore. So I'm like, well, I can break this part out, do this, that, and the other. And then eventually I'll see if I either have the footage or if I, you know, need to shoot that. And then I think about the different ways I would have to, you know, different cameras I got to have, you know, how many takes of this, that, what I want it to look like, etc. And then, you know, if I find something that's mildly interesting like that I can turn into something that's kind of, you know, good quality, something to learn from, and it's entertaining.
Right.
Or if I can find somewhere to be a little goofy in it, you know, then I'll write it and take my chances on it. I got a whole bunch of videos that I put together that I haven't released just because I didn't really, I was like, nah.
Outtakes?
Like,
Yeah. Well,
wait for the greatest hits album.
Yeah,
and include those in like
exactly.
a B.
dude, my
BLP.
outtakes would get me friggin' banned.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. I may look professional, but trust me, I'm really a welder. I speak like a welder, and I was a mechanic before that, so I never have the nicest things to say when things go wrong.
Do you receive criticism for something like that? Does any of that make its way into the series?
Not much of it.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
obviously, if it's a take I can't do anything about, like if I screw up a take, I'll reshoot it.
Okay.
Like I'm that much of a perfectionist
all
on
right,
it.
all right.
Or if I say something I don't like or whatever the case is, then I'll reshoot it or I'll rewrite it, do it again. But it's like I'll get it until I get it right. But if it's a one take, if it's a single shot or something like that, or if it's like a weld repair, I only have one take to do those.
Right.
So if I didn't say something right or I dropped an F-bomb or whatever the case is, then we just bleep it out.
Yeah.
It's done. Yeah. But nobody really criticizes that. But even so all of social media is like insanely sensitive now. So like certain words that you would I don't know how
Don't careful.
how good are we here? Right?
Yeah.
Use a variation of it.
Yeah.
Farging.
Okay, so
I mean, if it's a swear word, that's fine.
no. A fuel valve on the side of a motorcycle turns the gas on and off. There's an actual word for that. And one of those words is like where the pilots fly at the front of the airplane, right?
Yes.
So
The pit.
Yeah.
And you'll get feedback on that.
This one starts with pet, and it ends with the beginning of pit.
Wow.
So I had to bleep that out, even though that's the name of the friggin' part.
Is that a YouTube thing or
Yeah.
That's just a
audience
safety.
thing? Oh,
yeah,
I got
because you don't know what the algorithm is listening to and
Right.
what they decide this week they're going to be sensitive about or whatever. It's like these little things you got to say, inside your mind. Like if you say something sucks, you got to bleep it out
Really?
just to be on the safe side. Because you never know. Like
Well,
I've seen
really-
people they get demonetized just because this sucks.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you should have went bleep.
Right.
So
You
like
writing
when-
all this down, Gareth?
Yeah, we're taking notes. Yeah. Well, we've run into that too with a
Yeah.
couple of our earlier episodes, just
Yeah.
not that long ago.
Yes. Apparently,
interesting.
COVID's not a hot subject.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there-
that's the new C word.
You can say cocaine bear, but
Yeah.
No matter the context.
No
it's-
issues with
Yeah.
Cocaine Bear, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
when you're putting together some of these episodes, and if there's maybe a topic you're, only you know less about, are there resources or like people that you lean on to kind of glean any more information?
Yeah, there was one in particular. I was doing an episode on TIG brazing, and I wanted to braze steel to stainless steel with silicon bronze. Now, I know that I need to use that. I know about silicon bronze. I know the construction of it. I know the composition of it. I know all that stuff. I don't necessarily know why that I can't just fuse steel to stainless steel. And I was trying to dig through everything I can to get that message out. Like it's just, I know the answer, but I don't know the why.
Yeah.
It's like
Right.
the answer is
Okay.
because that's what I was taught.
Yeah.
But why?
Why? Yeah.
So I reached out to fellow YouTuber. His name's Tim. He goes by Tim Welds on
Yep.
YouTube. He does a lot of welding and stuff like that. He's also a freaking metallurgist.
Oh.
So I said, hey, would you mind helping me out with this one? And maybe even, you want to shoot a clip in there, I'll
Sure.
put it on there for you
Yeah.
because, you're, credit where credit's due. And he just gets on there, and actually he replied back to me. I think it was on Instagram. And he was just like, he just writes this whole thing out like within,
Right.
I don't know, a couple minutes. And I'm just like, wow, can you condense that into like, I don't know, 45 seconds to a minute or something like that? And whatever the case, he's like, well, I can talk about it. It's not that exciting. I'm like, don't worry, I'll get graphics up there and,
Yeah.
I'll put all this animations and stuff like that together. And yeah, that's the episode. But I brought him on to teach me that or to explain that to
Yeah.
the crowd or whatever the case is. So, that was having to reach out to somebody else that I don't really know much about.
That's
for stuff
that's
that I
a
don't know much about.
It's nice to hear a happy story about the internet.
Right.
Yeah, there can be some good stuff.
There you go.
And now for the deep, dark stuff.
Now for the part of the podcast we call it the dark web.
Yeah.
What other companies you got going on?
One of them I can't talk about. It's not released yet.
Okay.
We're this close. I wish I was hoping we'd have more along the lines where, anybody without an NDA could hear.
If you came back in an hour, could you tell us?
By the time
me
this
like
is released, that might be an issue.
Sorry.
No, I wanted to do like an exclusive drop, but unfortunately we can't. This has been a very, very long time project of mine. It's been about 3 or 4 years now in the making of it. It never existed before we did it, but it is an education platform. But
wow.
that's about all I can really say about it.
That's awesome.
Maybe
So-
we're ready for Fab Tech.
It will.
Oh, okay.
Ah,
Yeah,
cool.
it
Maybe we'll
definitely
talk
will.
then, I guess.
Good.
Yeah. It'll definitely be ready for Fab Tech. Hopefully everybody's heard about it and it's running smoothly by then. But the other one, the big one, a lot of people didn't realize until everybody started talking about it, is Weld Metals Online.
Yeah,
is-
okay.
is the other company I own.
Right. And that's more of kind of like e-commerce type.
Yeah. Except for now we're in distribution. We're starting to get in, stores and all over the place. Private labeling, you name it.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think we've become the world's, or not, maybe not the world's largest, but at least North America's largest welding consumable practice metal supplier, if you will.
And you're running that out of Las Vegas as well?
Mhm.
Oh, wow. Wow. How many people you have working in that operation?
There's 8 right now. Once my ops manager, my new guy gets in a couple weeks, it'll be 9.
yeah.
Hopefully we'll get back up to full staff, which was 12.
Okay. Did you
So-
think there was obviously you enter something like that knowing there's a chance to make it work. Did you have
Never had no idea.
no kidding.
I
How
got
did
laughed
you
at.
end up launching
Yeah.
it then? What was the inspiration?
It was the people. Again, it was the comments.
Yeah.
People were asking. They're like, "Hey, where can I get some metal to weld or whatever?" And I'm like, "Go down to your steel supplier, dude."
Right.
They're like,
yeah.
or run down to Home Depot, grab some of those super expensive straps of friggin' metal and
Yeah.
cut them up. They're like, "Well, I don't have a saw, or I don't need that much metal, or I don't want to clean it."
Yeah.
Or I want something fun to weld. I don't just want coupons. I want, I want project. I want this, that, and the other. So I was just like, well, hell, I'll just go buy some sheets and cut them up and, and put a label on them and
send them
for
out.
sale. Yeah.
No kidding.
And originally I didn't, because there's not a lot of money to be made in metal. Like everybody,
Yeah, right.
it's cool to say you got like the biggest company in whatever, but
Yeah.
seriously, there's not a lot of money in metal.
Right.
I get more money sticking it together than I do cutting it up.
Yeah.
So it's it's tricky to get everything just right and actually be extreme or to be, sustainable and profitable and whatever. So when I originally did this, I was like, geez, I don't want to go spend thousands upon thousands of dollars to get metal to cut up or whatever the case is. So I was like, well, let me reach out to some people, see if I can find some investors, interest in the company, whatever the case is. Maybe they can throw a couple bucks into this mess so I don't have to, drop 20 grand just on friggin' metal to have sitting on a shelf. And they all laughed at me. They were just like, yeah, who the hell's going to buy metal in a bag, dude? I was like,
bag o' metal.
Yeah, bag o' metal. Yeah, it just, that was the whole concept of it. And I was like, I was kind of deterred at that point. I was like, yeah, maybe you're right. So, yeah, screw it. Yeah. So I sat on it for a while. And then my brother was working with me at the time. And I was just like, there's something inside. I was just like, this is good. This is a good thing. Like this, I would like this, and then a buddy of mine owns Precision Tube Laser, and he was right around the corner from my house. His original shop was. So I remember he was tagging me on Instagram and all this other stuff just randomly. And I'm like, I'll just walk up in there and say, oh, hey, nice machine. What can it do? And he starts cutting these samples off of tubes and how they stick together and how they fit up and everything. And I'm just like, that is incredible. Like just the way that is sitting, he just did a little cope joint, like 45 degrees into it. I was like, it's accurate to within 1,000th of an inch, and there's no prep. It's just ready to weld. I'm like, that's the icing right there. That's the thing. I'm not just going to sell flat pieces of metal in a bag. Here's my kits. Here's the stuff that's super fun to do. It's like, you don't want to do the work to get there. You just want to stick it together.
Right.
So that put all the pieces right there together. I was like, I told my brother, I was like, get ready for a lot of friggin' overtime, man, because we're going to be slicing and bagging up a shit ton of metal to get on these shelves and get ready for launch. And our first month, we soft launched it, and it kind of took off.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And are you kind of outsourcing all that, slicing and dicing?
Not all of it. No, we process all of it
Okay.
in house.
Oh,
I have I got 2 shears and a whole second shift that cuts them all up.
No kidding. Wow.
They do on average, if we don't have a big distribution order, on average they'll do 12 to 15,000 coupons a night
No kidding.
on the second shift. So
Wow. How many projects is this connected to?
What do you mean?
They're buying these bags to create something like.
Oh, some of it's just practice.
It's not even aligned with like
There's
making a
starter
roll
kits.
cage or something like that. Oh wow.
Oh yeah, I mean, let's say the TIG welding starter kit. Say the one on the left there, which is the aluminum TIG starter. That's one of our more popular ones. That's got 40 different coupons inside of it, a piece of tungsten, and 50 pieces of filler wire.
So it's ready to go.
It's ready to go. Yeah, and all the metal is, when we process it, it's all wiped down. It's scraped. It's cleaned
So
up.
it's literally doing everything the comments was asking.
Yeah.
Clean metal and
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like you're
So-
saying, those people that couldn't walk down to Home Depot or anywhere else, I mean, we'll bring it right. It's there.
Yeah, it shows up at your doorstep. Just
Were you
boom.
surprised no one else was offering something like this?
Yeah, in a way, I was. I mean, I did see there's other companies that were out there before Weld Metals was, but it was just like, it was very specific stuff. So it was like, here's some plate for your D11. I was like, that's kind of boring,
Right.
But I noticed a couple other people like eBay or whatever. They were like, here's some scrap metal, and they just called them welding coupons, but they weren't wiped. They weren't really processed. They weren't standardized in standard sizes. They didn't have different varieties, different grades and stuff like that. I mean, eventually, or originally, we just started out with aluminum, carbon steel, and stainless steel from like 16 gauge up to 1/4 inch. I think was all we did. And we had them in 2 different sizes. You get 2 inch by 4 or 2 inch by 8. And they're all sold in a pack of 10. That's what we originally started with. I was like, that's standard, right? Because then you could do really long joints. You could do really short ones. You can do whatever you want with it, right? And that was originally what then people are like, hey, where can I get some titanium? And I'm like, well, I'll order a sheet of titanium. And then an aerospace company reached out, be like, yeah, we're looking for some Inconel 625 in 032. And I'm like, oh, that's like a $2,400 sheet, but whatever. It's on the product line. Let's do it. Then we got exotics, copper, Inconel brass, titanium, and different sizes, different. So
the customers are all over the board. It sounds like.
The schools are a big one. They're what we discovered early on was that we can hit a budget, right? Because schools across America, especially trade schools and vocations and stuff like that, even shop classes in high schools, all that stuff, their budgets are just getting slashed. They're getting thrown away.
Right.
And it's really sad. I mean,
Really dependent on local like contributions too.
Yeah.
Scrap.
So many of it is, or even reusing the coupons or test metal from the semester before.
Yeah.
Right.
All this stuff is they're all being hit with this right now, and it's become a big deal. So we started working with a few different schools and say, okay, well, what is your budget? And if we can hit that, then we can show you how to allocate this. Let's say this, every student has an allocation of, let's say, 1 pack of coupons, which is 10 pieces of metal. So for this week, you have 10 pieces of metal. Don't come asking for any more, and don't throw it in the scrap.
Right.
So you're going to fill that thing up, and that's what you get this week.
Right.
Right. And so you're able at that point to actually nail how much it's going to cost you to run this, and it's already done, it's packaged, it's ready to go. Just tear it open, give it to the student, say that's exactly how much it costs. There you go. So you can actually hit your budget, or come under your budget, or whatever the case is, having it all ready to go. And there's other things that we discovered with this as well, having stuff that's already prepared. Like, really, welding is the hard part. Prep and fabrication, that's important and everything like that, but to pass that weld test, there's not like a fit up test. If it's like beveling a pipe or plate or whatever the case is, yes, you can still teach those portions in your lesson, right? But for them to go and do it every single time, you're taking away from the actual time learning how to weld and stuff like that. So that's also where it comes in handy, having everything already set up. So you're not wasting time. And then, of course, you don't need staff to prep all this and everything else like that. So those people can be, used for other areas, that are more beneficial. So
yeah, from a welder for welders, really. I mean, that helps them get up and running so fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ever the marketer.
And then there's the project-based stuff too, building different things like the diamond gem. It all comes flat. Building a soccer ball, a real life size soccer ball.
Yeah.
Like putting all of that together is difficult.
Right.
And then welding it or whatever, so they become like, competency projects for like that semester or that class or whatever the case is.
That's
So,
awesome.
A lot of stuff that we do with that.
So do you feel the Fabricator Series is still important to kind of help support the other?
Well, Weld Metal sustains pretty much
business?
all by itself.
Okay.
I get on there and I'll plug it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of two separate.
Yeah, they're very much two separate entities at this point.
Right.
So, and we have other affiliates and stuff like that who support us and everything else. I mean, it's gotten out there to that point where it's, I don't have to do it. But even in the beginning, like when I launched it, I'm one of those firm believers that a product has to sell on its own merit.
Yeah.
So I didn't go out there being like, hey guys, I just opened up a Weld Metals Online,
right.
buy from me.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. I just said, this is Weld Metals Online. Just there it is, go find it.
Yeah.
And if you want it, go
Well,
buy it.
in a way, I mean, you feel like you build up a relationship with your online audience. You don't want to kind of abuse that.
Yeah, I absolutely do not want to do that. So, besides, if I ever sold it, everything has a price tag on it. If I sold it and it just, there it goes,
Yeah.
I'm not, they'll get the money or whatever from all of my endorsements and everybody else, but, in future, endeavors with the company, but, it's a lot easier to sell when I don't have to, worry about my attachment to it.
Did you have any idea it would kind of blow up like this?
Oh, I had no clue.
Yeah.
So, like I said, originally it was just, it was like, okay, maybe I'll get, take my wife and family out for a steak, once a month.
Once.
Yeah. So
Nice.
that's really, that's all that TFS was in the beginning too. It was I'm kind of bored. I want something to do. I build this, I make that. So it turned into so much more. So, but everything was already planned out at the beginning as a business. So we write the business plan about it. We actually run everything as a business. You can't just throw shit against the wall and see what sticks, right?
Yeah.
It's like, because if that's the case, if you're just gonna be like, oh, I got an idea and I'm gonna run with it instead of actually planning it out, that's like trying to nail diarrhea to a wall.
Yeah.
Like it ain't gonna work.
And you can't weld it either.
You can't
That's
weld
tough.
it either.
Yeah.
That's very,
So
I'm interested in those clean coupons once again, please. So how did you get involved with fabricating? Was it something you grew up in, developed an interest into?
that was it's hard to say exactly what got me into it. I remember when I was a kid, I was obsessed with that doesn't really exist anymore.
It gone.
Anyway, that was a
I was going to ask about that, but that answers that question.
No, that was somebody talking me into it, and I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. But what they wanted to do was sit at a desk and put their feet up and light cigars with $100 bills while I did all the work. And I was just, at that point, I was just like,
is it even worth mentioning what we were just talking about?
find a fabricator. I'll do it for
Here's
you.
one.
No, that was originally it was a directory where you could get found.
Yeah.
So if somebody needed something done or whatever the case is, you could advertise your services, whatever the case. But it fell by the wayside, unfortunately.
Well, I didn't mean to derail the conversation. But
That's okay. I mean, I still wear it.
that's
why I was looking.
it was right in my face.
I haven't had these uniforms serviced in a while. Just cleaned every week.
There you go.
Where were we?
So basically, how you got involved.
Oh, yeah. So I recall when I was younger, I recall seeing like a lowrider just bouncing around, and I was always into cars and stuff like that. I didn't really realize that fabrication played a part. I just thought you'd go down to the dealership and buy a lowrider, But my dad, and sometimes in his negativity, he's like, well, you need to get a lot of money or learn how to do it. And I'm like, well, I haven't got any money.
Yeah.
I'll learn how it's done. So I became a mechanic.
Yeah.
It was one of those things. And then, I was pretty gung-ho about being a mechanic, but I didn't know how to weld. I didn't really know much about anything else. I used to read a lot of articles. That was, before the internet, really. You got magazines. I had like a tech section.
We like those.
Yeah.
Might be familiar with one.
But yeah, it was just, you had the tech articles in the pubs and stuff like that were in there. Well, you'd read those, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. One of these days, maybe I'll get to do that. And I was working at a Dodge dealership as a Viper Tech trainee. And there was a recall that came in or was issued on the Vipers where if you hit the brakes too hard on the racetrack, the front wheels would come ripping off, and you just wasted your at that time $70,000-$80,000 car. Yep. So the recall involved welding a certain section into the chassis, and the rest of it had gussets that were riveted in. And since I was the trainee and I didn't know how to weld, obviously my master Viper Tech gave me the rivet squeezer.
Yeah.
And I absolutely hated it. It was terrible. So after like my fifth or sixth one for the day, I'm just sitting there like the body shop guy is the one who came back and, welded the parts in or whatever the guys or the cross section that had to go in there. He actually does the welding on it, and then he goes and disappears back in the body shop while I'm in there squeezing freaking rivets. Right? So I'm pissed off. I'm only like 18 or 19 at the time, and I got arms like made of jello at this point. I'm like, hey, show me how to weld. I'm sick of doing this thing. Yeah. He's like, yeah, okay, sure. Come here. Then he gives me this little lens, just a little 2x4 lens, not the whole shield, not the mask, none of that. He's like, hold this little thing in front of your eyes, all right? Just don't look at the arc. Just hold that there. Grab this little gun. Squeeze the trigger and wiggle it around a little bit, and there you go. It was like slow motion though at the time. It was like just like the wire comes out, and it's like, there we go, and I'm like, I am in love. Just immediately, I'm just like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Yeah. Like, wow. So like the next day, I go to Walmart, I buy a little flux cord 210 Campbell Housefield friggin' wire feeder, and just in my garage every single night, just sticking together whatever I can, just sparks everywhere. It's like I'm breathing galvanized or zinc in it. I don't care what it is. I had a little handheld mask and a wire feeder, and like, let's go. So, eventually I realized I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Yeah. So I ended up going to school, learning some welding. I volunteered at shops, push the broom, ask a lot of questions, meet other fabricators, and learn as much as I could until I finally started building and started doing a lot of stuff on my own. Most of what I've done is self-taught, but I mean, there's been school to back it up. Right. But nothing really beats the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
No.
It's like when you weld something together and it breaks, it's like, well, I guess I didn't do that right. I got to figure it out again.
Do you get that same feeling from younger people willing to go through that? Yeah.
You know what the number one question is? Somebody's like, okay, guys, I did all my research. I bought a welder. I watched some videos. I just did my first weld, and it looks like crap. What am I doing wrong? I'm like, do 100 of those.
You
stopped. You gave up.
Right.
You stepped on the pedal once and melted some filler. It's like, oh, I'm not very good at this.
I think it's like afraid of failure.
Yeah. It's like the internet's like, oh, the internet will tell me how to do it. It's like, no. You gotta teach. You gotta learn by doing. Like you can't just. It's not a microwave, right? You don't just like bleep bloop bleep. Hey, I got to weld. That's not how welders work. Well, unless it's a MIG welder. Those are like that, but yeah.
The one time I was actually welding, the one I could never get was MIG welding. So yeah, I actually enjoyed the kind of the interaction between two hands with like the TIG. Not that I was any good at it.
He's got a website, not the welder, not a fabricator.
There's a reason I write and not do. So
yeah, I remember on my fake welding video, that was another one. It was just driven by some. Oh, was it Crafty Panda and all those other stupid little, hack of your life, do it this way videos. Like the 5-minute crafts or whatever the case is. They're like, take this coat hanger and punch it through your wall and you can hang a pair of panties on it. It's like, that's real helpful. But like Crafty Panda or whatever the case is, they do the same thing. But what they do is they just do little spot welds with their MIG, and then they edit out all the bright lights or whatever. So naturally, when something new looking comes up, I'm the resource for the answer. I am the source of the answer, right? So everybody's like, is this cold MIG welding? Because I did the cold welding TIG machine a while back, before that one. It was a really popular video. So I'm just getting blown up about this cold MIG welding thing. And I'm like, I'm getting tired of responding. This is fake. This is edited. This is bullshit.
Use Google better.
Yeah.
Be a better Googler.
So after a while, I was just getting sick and tired of it. So I was like, you know what, screw it. I'll write an episode about this one, whatever the case is. I'll get into this, whatever. And I put it together and I was like, this is kind of cool. But it was only like 3 minutes long explaining how fake this is. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to stretch this a little bit. Well, we'll find some stuff. Then my wife, and some of my other staff and, admin staff, we joke around with them, or I'll show them a video before it actually, gets going. And my wife was like, you ought to go with like a Law and Order type of intro. Like that would set the pace on this one. So I was like, well, geez, I could try. So I did. Like the TFS intro comes in just like Law and Order, and then I wrote a script for like, in the social media welding system and all this. And I remember that day, I was like, I got onto my microphone, and without any effects or anything else like that, I got my voice as low as it possibly goes, which was insane. It hurt. Like I could feel it like right here. And I was just like, I did 2 takes on that one. And I was just like, my throat was on fire. But yeah, and once I did that, my wife was like, that's it right there. Now you're just going to find a way to stretch something in the middle of it. So then I was just going for some BS stuff just to keep the flow of the video going. But there's a point in here where I explain how a MIG welder actually works. And then to start that one off, I was like, now MIG is an acronym for anyone can weld. The first 3 letters of each word are silent. And I think a lot of this stuff really just kept the pace of that video. That video hit 1 million views in like a week, which was a record for me at the time, which is insane. I never thought you'd do. So all this is just, it's BS.
Yeah.
It's just clever editing. So I gave a little lesson about how MIG welders work and stuff like that. It was really informational for a lot of people. And then people that don't even weld, they're like, oh, I've seen those videos before. Thanks for, bringing the light to this or whatever. So it was,
serving a purpose out there. That's
I was
pretty
having fun
good.
with it. It was a really fun video. I wish I could write a million of them like that.
Yeah.
That one paid a lot of money.
Do you miss working solely on those things?
I miss working.
Yeah.
As my official job title now is CEO, which means I sit at my desk and I get stuff done. And I miss welding. I miss fabricating. I still get out there and do it as much as I can, but I don't get to do it nearly as much as I used to.
Right.
So now this stuff is like a job.
Yeah. No. I think that, we had a conversation earlier where, the conversation about growing a business, and, with that comes stress. I mean, it's nice to enjoy the benefits of it, but it's not the same as kind of when you start out. And
what is today? 20. So in like 2 months, I'll be 40. Look at all these wrinkles. See, like this receding hairline and all this other stuff. Like, I went to go get my hair done, and the lady starts like carving it out like this. I'm like, would you stop? She's going further back, and I'm like, no,
She tapped you on the shoulder. Don't you get your discount?
If you see the back of my head, don't even think. It's not going to happen to you. You'll be fine.
It was rough too, man. She was a sweet lady. She's older, but she was really sweet. Whatever the case is. I remember she's grabbing like this part and like going to cut it, and she's like, puts my head back. I'm like, Jesus, like it's gonna fall out.
It's on its way.
But yeah, the stress levels are insane. You gotta think about it. Even if you have, employees or whatever the case is, everybody thinks that owning your business is you're just gonna be like, oh yeah, you're free to do whatever you want. You go party out. You don't have to answer to anybody. I'm like, no, every single customer, or everybody who isn't a customer, anybody who calls in, drops an inquiry, email, they are your boss.
Right.
So if you get 20 inquiries in your day, that's 20 bosses you have to answer to. This is not easy.
Yeah.
And if you don't, play nice and you don't actually work and do this, you don't get paid.
Yeah.
So if you miss a day because you went out and got trashed or whatever the case is,
Right.
you're not there making money. It's things like that. It's the same with employees. If you don't make money to pay them, they're not going to work for you.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you happy where you are now?
I like it. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. It's stressful. It gets really irritating. It's fun.
Yeah.
The other day I had a 3-time offender, if you will. One of my employees, he wasted about $2,400 worth of metal that I can't do anything about.
Oh, geez.
And it's like, that was the first time I really yelled at my crew.
Yeah.
Normally I'm super cool. We got a really nice environment, laid back or whatever. But that one I lost it.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, staff meeting, here we go.
Yeah.
That was a hit.
Makes a
I
difference,
didn't
yeah.
like that one. I did not like that one at all. And it delayed one of my orders and everything else like that. It was just like, that's the stress that you gotta end up dealing with, It's like, here's a first time distributor. This is their first order. It has to be what they ordered. You can't just squeeze this in or hide it or whatever the case is, right?
Yeah.
So to waste that much metal on it is going to delay the order, may sour the relationship in the future, or whatever the case is. It's like, we got to go. We got to fix this now. And I had to kind of explain the severity of
Right.
it,
Yeah.
of it
Gotta
this
let 'em
time,
know.
And I don't like yelling at my crew. It doesn't happen very often, but at that time they had to hear it. And even, it's like, you can't, like, everybody wants to be cool and wants to be like friends with everybody. It's like, no, but at the end of the day, I am the boss. And when you got to put foot to ass, it's just what you got to do. And it doesn't feel good to do that, but sometimes you got to do it.
It hurts monetarily.
Yeah.
Kind of switching gears. At what point did you change it from the Fabricator series to the Fabrication series?
You really want me to answer this?
I do, actually.
Inquiring
know the
minds
reason?
want to know.
Yeah. Well, maybe a hunch.
I wonder if this part's going to stay in. It was April 23rd of 1996. This is a true story, by the way.
Or 2396. Got it.
I was 13 years old that day. A company registered the trademark, The Fabricator, on that day.
Really?
I will leave the name of the company out. You could probably, you can guess who it is, right? And when I got onto YouTube, several years later,
couple. Yeah.
I was the Fabricator Series. Well, they didn't like that.
Sure.
So after some legal stuff and whatnot, I changed the name, and it's now the Fabrication Series. No grudges.
Wow. I'm not
It's
sure I even knew that.
Yeah.
Well, we had to ask.
it's no. As I tell the story, everybody wants to know why there's a red ION
Yeah,
over the
the
top of it. It's
ION.
because I had to change the name. It's just business. It's nothing
Yeah.
personal. It's
That's
exactly the
good.
way it works. So, but the kicker on that one, the first time I was ever supposed to go live on YouTube, this is where I originally got kind of frustrated with it, is the very first time I was supposed to go live, I was sitting with my cousin and my cameraman who volunteered his time. We're about an hour to go before. We're sitting at breakfast, running through the script, running through the program of everything, and then my email goes off and it's a happy little cease and desist letter. And the minute you get that, you have to stop. So everybody who was ready to watch me go live in an hour didn't see me go live.
Oh,
and of course, when you get an order like that, you can't.
Yeah.
Cannot break it. The minute you get it, you have to stop. So I couldn't even announce that it's not going to happen. I can't do anything. I just had to go dead silent for a month. And I lost a ton of money. And of course, you got to get an attorney to go through everything because it's not like, oh my God, super lawsuit. It's just business. That's all it is, So when I got back on, I was like, well, I'll change the name or whatever. So we all agreed to it. Everything's done, settled. So I had a graffiti mural on my wall in the back of the shop, and it said the Fabricator Series above it. So the first post I got back on the social media, it was me climbing a ladder with a can of red spray paint. I put an X and an ION and said, well, I'm back. But
Well, you
yeah,
lived
it's
up
just
to the
it's just
name
business
for the
stuff.
time
That's
you
all
had
it
it.
is.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Awesome.
it's I'm not gonna lie, it's actually kind of funny that I'm sitting here. I was wondering if anybody even knew.
I'm not lying. I don't know the details.
So
at
what
all.
you're saying is we can't change this to the Fabrication Podcast?
Actually, you can't. Well, you technically could because in 2000 something, the generic laws came into place. So that's why the Fabricator is grandfathered in. But I'm not going to contest it. That's just kind of rude. Like,
Yeah.
You know, they
Well,
can
hopefully
have
we'll
it.
be. Hopefully we'll give this a run to
but
where
if
we
you
can
if
actually
you
maybe
change it to the
consider
Fabrication Podcast, I
Yeah.
can't do anything about it because Fabricator, fabrication, all of it's all generic term.
Yeah.
So you're not allowed to use that according to I think 2002 is when they enacted that or something like that. But yeah, it's all good. Well, thanks for bringing that up.
You know about a lot of stuff.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Icebreaker.
Maybe
Should've started with that.
first.
We're gonna have to edit this, right?
Will we? I don't think so.
No.
Oh, hey, no, you can keep it in there whenever it's.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think you know more about this whole thing than I do.
Yeah.
What else do I not know about our organization?
Just for future reference, if somebody ever does get a cease and desist or whatever the case is,
Yeah.
just think business. It's nothing personal. It's just what you have to do. If you have a trademark and you think that something is infringing on it, you have to enforce it. No grudges.
Right.
I mean, unless you're the lady from Gone in 60 Seconds that owns the Eleanor trademark or what is it? Yeah, it's trademark. Trademarked Eleanor from the original Gone in 60 Seconds, the Mustang or whatever. So she goes after everybody who even says Eleanor. So that's not business. That's just being a bitch.
Well, it's a revenue stream. All right.
Sorry, tangent.
No problem. I've got to go give an award. So,
Oh, yeah.
thanks for joining us today. Do we have any more questions?
No?
All right.
No more questions.
Thanks, Justin Merrill, for joining us today.
Merrill.
Jeez, I did it. You put that in my head.
Well, at least you didn't rearrange the letters.
Justin Merrill. God bless it. From the Fabrication Series and also website,
WeldMetalsOnline.com.
There you go. Thank you.
You had to make me think about that one because the next company has the name Welding in as well. Can't say that.
Oh, that was about to say.
We look forward to that.
We'll get together again at FabTech maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
Hopefully,
love to
chat about it.
Yeah, this is actually really fun. I enjoy it.
Cool.
Setup's awesome too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So go to where you get your podcast, rate, review,
Review, subscribe.
recommend us to your friends and family. What's their email address again?
It's podcast@thefabricator.com.
.com. Yeah. Send us, leave us a note. Positive comments, please.
Only positive.
I'm very fragile. And yeah, that's it. So until we meet again, bye.